Several other urban areas across the country are preparing for what could be their worst weeks yet amid the pandemic, including New Orleans, which health experts say could be the next big hotspot. Joining me right now from the great state of Louisiana, Republican Senator John Kennedy. Senator, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Mayor.
What do we know about New Orleans, about Louisiana, in terms of the number of cases and how the state is preparing for what seems to be coming at you?
We are coping, Maria. We have about 3,300 cases. We've had around 130 deaths. We're clearly a hot spot. It began in New Orleans and it's kind of moving out throughout the state. We're trying to save lives, and we're also trying to save livelihoods because our economy's shut down. The legislation we just passed will help. It'll get money directly to people, to hospitals, to businesses. I will say that a lot of my people are very upset at the spending porn on pet projects that was slipped into the bill. But my people are also grateful for help from the American taxpayer.
Well, let's talk about that. What do you see as porn that you were forced to put in here? Lindsey Graham just came on and said that his colleagues on the left, or he said Nancy Pelosi specifically put a gun to his head in terms of getting that $25 million in there for the Kennedy Center. What else falls under the word porn, as you put it?
Well, you know, life is hard, but it's harder when you're stupid. And there's an enormous amount of spending porn on pet projects that was put into this bill by some powerful members of Congress. They think the American people, I guess, are morons and won't notice, but they did. It's why so many Americans think there's no intelligent life in Washington, D.C., is why Congress polls right up there with robocalls and sinkholes. This is what many Americans heard members of Congress saying. Oh my God, we could run out of ventilators. Oh my God, people could die. Quick, let's give money to the Kennedy Center and the post office. Now, that tells the American people that common sense is dead in Washington, D.C. It was not a Lincoln moment. Nonetheless, those of us who are fiscal conservatives, we swallowed it. We had to. We passed the bill. I think it's going to help the American people. But a pox on the House and houses of all those members of Congress who took advantage of this disaster, this tragedy, to take care of their pet projects.
Yeah. And you said to me when we spoke over the phone that there will be other things that will come to light that people will recognize that are in this bill and continue to anger people. I want you to walk through some of that, because something you mentioned to me when we were talking on the phone about suntan lotion. We'll take a quick break, and then we want to come back with that, Senator. Senator John Kennedy is with me this morning. We are looking ahead on Sunday Morning Futures, and he is walking us through the bill. Back in a moment. Welcome back, and we're back with Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. And Senator, we're talking about what is in this relief package. And over the weekend, you mentioned to me something about suntan lotion that people were not aware of that's in this bill. Can you tell us what's in the bill that we are unaware of?
Yes, there's all kind of porn in this bill. There's a provision to speed up FDA review of sunscreen products. There's money in this bill for the National Endowment for the Arts, for the National Endowment for Humanities. There's money in this bill for housing. There's money in this bill for NASA. There's money in this bill for a $500,000 water project in Utah. I made a list, Maria. There's money in here for the Smithsonian. I love the Smithsonian. So you had to agree to all of this? It's not a priority right now. And let me say one more thing. The Department of Treasury in Washington is holding $26 billion of uncashed savings bonds that belong to the American people. I tried to put a provision in to tell Treasury to give the names and addresses to the state treasurers so they can start getting this money back to people when they really need it. I was told, oh, it's not relevant to the bill. And then I pick up the bill and see stuff in here like sunscreen review at the FDA, money for housing.
Unbelievable.
Money for NASA.
So
I mean, it's
you
perverse.
You had to agree to all of this. You had to agree to all of this to get your colleagues on the left to vote for unemployment benefits and to get cash into America's pockets during this recession critical moment in time? That's the only way you would get their vote?
It was started by Speaker Pelosi with her left of Lenin bridge to nowhere projects. But I think once we drill down, we're going to find out that she's not the only one. I think some other people in powerful positions piled on, and I don't like it. And it's not fair to the American people. Now, look, I'm tight as a tick. I squeak when I walk. I'm so cheap with taxpayer money. But I said, look, this is necessary. I swallowed it and said, we're going to spend $2 trillion+ because the American people need it. But when I pick up this bill and see this kind of spending porn where people were taking advantage of a catastrophe for the American people, it pisses me off.
Well, I'll tell you what is upsetting Americans, and it's this reliance on China for so many important products like the active ingredients in our prescription drugs. And speaking of spending, who's buying all this debt, Senator? China?
Well, let me speak to that, your observation about China, because it's a very good one. In capitalism, in free markets, our people produce products and product components at the cheapest venue. But sometimes the cheapest is not in your national interest. And we may be able to buy components for pharmaceutical drugs cheaper in China, but we've learned through this experience that that may not be in the national interest. And after this is over and we beat the virus, and we will, you're going to see some changes.
So what are you going to do about it?
Long overdue.
Yeah, you're right. We are looking for legislation to ensure that America is not so reliant on China. We know that they threatened to hold back those prescription drugs in the middle of all of this. Senator, it is good to see you this morning, and we so appreciate all that you are doing. Thank you, sir.